Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. आज की फ्लाइट में आप सबका स्वागत है। हमारा क्रू आपका बहुत ख्याल रखेगा, लेकिन आपसे एक निवेदन है कि अपनी चोली टाइटली बांध लें ताकि दिल बाहर ना गिर जाए।
I raised an eyebrow, crossing my arms as I leaned against my bike. This is my place to park my bike, Mr. Newbie. He chuckled, the sound light and carefree, as if I had just told a hilarious joke. Mr. Newbie, he repeated, amusement dancing in his eyes. I nodded, my smirk growing. How else would you want me to address you? You're clearly new here. I mean, if you weren't, you would know that this spot belongs to me and my bike. No one dares to take it. His smirk widened. All right, Tinkerbell, I'll just park my bike over there, then. You can have your little corner of the world. Now go ahead and park your bike. I narrowed my eyes. Tinkerbell. Seriously, I shot back, trying to mask the thrill his banter sent through me. He shrugged, unfazed. Just a fitting name for someone who thinks they own this place. Now, hurry up and park. You're wasting precious time. Rolling my eyes, I felt my frustration simmering just below the surface. I don't just think, I do own this place, well. Whatever. I'm not here to argue with you, I said, reluctantly parking my bike in its designated spot, the familiar feeling of ownership washing over me. As I secured my bike, I could feel his gaze lingering on me, a mix of curiosity and amusement. I turned to walk away, but before I could, he called out, "Hey! What's your name, Tinkerbell?" "Jane," I replied over my shoulder, not bothering to look back. "Nice to meet you, Jane," he replied, voice smoother than necessary. "Sure it is," I said. "Try not to fall in love, Mr. New, I don't do charity work." And just like that, I walked off, shoulders high, heels clicking, leaving behind the echo of my attitude and the scent of burnt ego. After submitting my presentation in the professor's office, I made my way back to class, feeling a little more relaxed now that the task was done. I spotted Jasper already sitting at our usual spot, his head bent over a notebook. "How's it going?" I asked as I slid into the seat beside him. Jasper looked up, his expression brightening. "Just trying to figure out how to survive another day in this academic jungle," he said with a laugh, and I chuckled. Jasper had been with me through thick and thin since we moved to Korea. He'd wasted a years of his med studies to join me here, and despite my constant nagging, he was stubborn enough to stay by my side. His family was still in the States, but Jasper, he saw this as an adventure. We were chatting casually when the professor entered, and the room instantly quieted. But instead of starting the lecture, the professor gestured to the door, introducing a new student. My eyes widened slightly as I recognized him. It was the same guy who had crossed paths with me earlier on the bike, Mr. New. He walked in confidently, his presence filling the room, and stood next to the professor as he introduced himself. "Hi everyone, I'm B, the new transfer student. I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to getting to know all of you," he said, his deep voice resonating through the class. I couldn't help but chuckle at the name, leaning over to Jasper and whispering just loud enough for a few others to hear, "Is that W along the way?" A ripple of laughter spread through the classroom, and I could see the corners of his lips twitching as if he was holding back a response. His eyes locked onto mine, a mix of challenge and amusement in them. But before anything else could happen, the professor clapped his hands for silence, glaring at me and the other students. "All right, settle down," the professor said sternly, motioning for V to take a seat. He nodded and made his way to the back of the room, choosing a seat far from me. I ignored him completely, turning back to Jasper. "Anyway, what was I saying?" Jasper grinned, something about W being on the way. I rolled my eyes, laughing softly. "Forget that guy, he's not worth the time." Still, I could feel his gaze from across the room every now and then. But I wasn't going to let it bother me. After all, he was just another new face. Nothing more. 𝘏𝘌𝘔𝘆𝘚. I took my seat in the classroom, my eyes naturally drifting to Jane as I sat down. I had enrolled here under my American name, V, so no one would know who I truly was. It gave me the freedom to operate without the weight of my family's reputation bearing down on me, especially since no one could connect me to Soo-jin. When I ran into her earlier at the parking lot, I was almost certain she would recognize me. I mean, how could she not? I was 100% sure my hung had shown her my picture at some point. But when she didn't, when she looked at me as if I was just some random guy, I felt an odd sense of relief wash over me. Maybe it was the haircut, I thought. Before, I had longer hair, and now, with it cut shorter and styled differently, I guess I looked less familiar. But seeing her now, sitting there so at peace after everything she had done to my brother, after ruining his life, I had to resist the urge to let my anger boil over. My fingers twitched as I fought for control. I couldn't lose my temper here. Not now. I needed to get closer to her, to gain her trust if I wanted to take her down. I would make her regret what she did to Soo-jin. Just then, I felt a tap on my shoulder, breaking my intense focus. I turned to see the guy sitting next to me, a friendly smile plastered on his face. "Hey, man," he said, "stop glaring at her so much. You're gonna catch people's attention." I blinked, caught off guard. Had I been staring that obviously? I composed myself quickly and raised an eyebrow. "I wasn't glaring," I said, forcing a casual smile. The guy just chuckled. "Yeah, sure. Anyway, I'm 𝘏𝘐," he introduced himself, extending a hand. I took it, nodding. I replied, keeping it short and neutral. 𝘏𝘐 nodded back, studying me for a moment before leaning in slightly. "Word of advice, stay away from Jane. She's not someone you want to mess with. Trust me." I frowned, pretending to be confused. "Why, what's the deal with her?" He glanced around as if checking to make sure no one was listening. "That girl, she's not like other students here. She has a lot of influence. 𝘏_squad, they run things at this university. No one crosses them." I leaned in, feigning more interest than I already had. "𝘏_squad." 𝘏𝘐 nodded seriously. "Yeah, her brothers are powerful, and then she's got friends who are just as strong. 𝘏𝑈𝑛, Jasper, and those other guys. If you're thinking of getting close to her, or worse, causing trouble, you'll regret it. I've seen what happens to people who try." I leaned back in my seat, processing what he was telling me. So, she had built herself a fortress of power here. It was no wonder she walked around with that confidence, as if she owned the place. And her brothers, I had heard about them, but hearing this only solidified my resolve. She thought she was untouchable. I smiled faintly, nodding as if I was taking his advice to heart. "Thanks for the heads up," I said, keeping my tone light. But inside, I was more determined than ever. Let her have her squad, her friends, her power. None of that would matter when I finally had her where I wanted her. And I wouldn't stop until she felt the pain she had caused my family. After the break, I found myself standing at the edge of the corridor on the second floor, leaning against the railing. Below, I could see Jane standing with her usual group, the infamous 𝘏_squad. They were gathered together, casually talking and laughing. Jane, as usual, was the center of attention. I watched her closely, narrowing my gaze. She gestured toward the side, as if excusing herself from the group to head somewhere. Perfect. Seeing my opportunity, I moved swiftly, heading toward the side of the building where I had already noticed an older man painting over some of the graffiti that the students had scrawled all over the walls. The old man was working slowly, methodically, trying to fix it. I approached him, offering a friendly smile. "Need any help?" The old man shook his head politely, waving his hand dismissively. No, I can manage. It's part of my job." But I wasn't going to back off that easily. I insisted, "Come on, it'll go faster with 2 people." He hesitated for a moment, then sighed, nodding. "All right, if you're sure." I stepped up onto the small metal step ladder, taking a paintbrush in hand. I dipped it into the paint bucket, slowly brushing it across the wall, making it seem like I was here to help. In reality, my mind was already somewhere else, on her. As I worked, my eyes flicked down to the entrance of the building. There she was. Jane was walking inside, alone now, her confident stride making it clear that she thought she owned this place. I could feel my smirk forming as a plan quickly took shape in my mind. Without hesitating, I kicked the paint bucket, just as she stepped inside. The timing was perfect. The metal bucket tipped over, and in a matter of seconds, the paint splashed down from the second floor ledge, tumbling straight toward her. As the paint bucket tipped over and splashed down, I heard the old man beside me shout in shock and concern. "What did you do?" he exclaimed, panic in his voice. I acted quickly, feigning regret. "I'm so sorry, it slipped," I apologized, jumping down from the step ladder. Still holding the paintbrush, I ran down the stairs, my heart racing not from guilt, but from the excitement of my plan working perfectly. When I reached the ground floor, Jane was standing there, completely drenched in white paint. Her hair, her clothes, everything was splattered. She looked stunned for a moment, frozen in place as her precious 𝘏_squad quickly surrounded her. "𝐾𝐢𝐤𝐞," one of them asked, his voice filled with concern. I put on my best apologetic face, stepping closer. "I'm really sorry," I said, holding up the paintbrush as if that was proof of my innocence. "I didn't mean it, it just slipped out of my hands." I tried to sound as sincere as possible, even though inside, I could hardly contain my smirk. The 𝘏_squad wasn't having it. One of them, a sharp-eyed guy with more muscle than brains, grabbed me by the collar, his face contorted in anger. "You think this is funny?" I raised my hands defensively, trying to appear innocent. "I swear it was an accident." Before the situation could escalate, Jane, still dripping in paint but keeping her composure, raised her hand. "Stop this," she ordered firmly, her voice calm but commanding. "Forget about him. Get me cleaned up first." The guy holding my collar gritted his teeth, giving me one last threatening look before he let me go, shoving me back roughly. I stumbled a bit but regained my balance, still holding onto that paintbrush like it was my shield. The group quickly ushered Jane toward the restroom, her paint-covered figure now leading a small procession. I watched them go for a moment, my smirk finally breaking free as I saw her walking away in that mess. Still holding the paintbrush, I trailed behind them, keeping my distance, watching as they disappeared into the restroom. Today had gone better than I'd imagined. This was just the start, and I wasn't done yet. I was leaning casually against the wall near the campus restroom, waiting. When Jane finally emerged, fresh from her shower and dressed in new clothes, I had to admit I was impressed. The J-Squad had managed to find her a new outfit quickly, their loyalty to her as strong as ever. She walked out looking as composed as if nothing had happened. As she spotted me, I quickly hid the paintbrush behind my back and gave her a wide smile, trying to play it off. The J-Squad stepped forward, trailing protectively like a pack of wolves guarding their queen. They immediately began fussing over her, asking in concerned tones, "Are you okay? Did the paint hurt your eyes?" Jane shook her head, not saying a word to them yet. Her focus was entirely on me. With each step she took, her gaze sharpened, and I could feel the intensity of her annoyance. "You," she snapped, stopping a few steps away from me. "This is the second time you've come in my way." She glared, fury evident in her posture. The J-Squad followed her lead, their eyes burning with anger as they all turned to face me. I just kept smiling, the picture of innocence. "I'm really sorry," I said, sounding as sincere as I could. "I was just helping the old man. It was an accident, I swear." But Jane wasn't buying it. She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as if she could see right through me. Her voice dropped, low and dangerous. "Don't get cocky. I'm not one of those girls you can hit. Try me, and I'll rip you to shreds every single day. The ones who came before you, they either landed in the hospital, or vanished from the country." With that, she turned on her heel and strode away, the J-Squad following closely behind her, each one throwing me death glares as they passed. I let out a sigh, a small smirk tugging at the corner of my lips. Oh, feisty too, I love a feisty girl, and breaking them. This was going to be more fun than I thought. At the university library, I stood by the entrance, glancing around, waiting for Kong-hoon, one of my Hung's old friends. I had texted him earlier, and when I spotted him walking in, a smile tugged at the corner of my lips. As soon as he saw me, his eyes widened in shock. "Taehyung, you're here," he exclaimed, clearly surprised. "I was shocked when I got your text." I chuckled softly, raising a finger to my lips. "Don't call me Taehyung here. I go by V now." Kong-hoon blinked, confused. "V, what's going on?" His expression was a mix of curiosity and concern. Sighing, I gestured for him to follow me outside for a walk. We stepped into the cool air, away from any prying ears in the library. I told him everything, the whole plan, my intentions, and why I had taken on this new identity. "I want to ruin her," I said, my voice low but filled with determination. "The same way she ruined my brother. I'll make her trust me first, just like she made him believe in her. And when she's vulnerable, then I'll break her." Kong-hoon was quiet for a moment, processing my words. He sighed heavily and shook his head. "It's not going to be easy, you know. Not with the J-Squad around her. They're like her personal bodyguards. They won't let you get close to her." I stopped and turned to face him fully, my eyes locking onto his. "That why I need your help, Kong-hoon?" He looked at me, surprised but attentive. "Of course, what do you need?" I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. "I need every detail you can get me on the J-Squad. I need to know how they operate, their routines, their weaknesses. If I'm going to get close to Jane, I need to understand her inner circle." Kong-hoon's expression shifted, concern etched on his face. "The J-Squad, Taehyung, you know they don't trust just anyone. They're tight-knit, and they've been with Jane through everything. It's not going to be easy to infiltrate them." I smirked, a spark of determination igniting within me. "I know it won't be easy. That's why I need your insight. You've been around long enough to observe them, right? Any small detail could help." He hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "All right, I'll gather what I can. But be careful, these guys don't play around when it comes to protecting her." I nodded, grateful for his support. "I'll be careful, but I need this information. If I'm going to make Jane pay, I need to know everything about the people she relies on." Kong-hoon gave a slow nod, understanding the weight of what I was asking. "I'll get you what you need. Just promise me you'll think this through. This revenge, it can eat you alive." I gave him a faint smile, though inside, I was already too far gone. "Don't worry, Kong-hoon. I know exactly what I'm doing." And with that, the plan was in motion. The first step to breaking Jane would be understanding her fortress. And the J-Squad, they were the walls I needed to tear down. Classes ended, and I was finally ready to leave this hellhole of a campus. I walked to the parking lot, tugging at my sleeves, already planning the rest of my evening, until I saw it. I stopped dead in my tracks. My bike, my beautiful, matte black beast, was now dipped in white paint. No, splattered, vandalized, abused, covered in swirls of neon spray like it had been part of some tragic street art experiment. Red, blue, yellow, even a heart near the handlebar. My eyes widened, blood boiled. What the actual? Then I heard it, that goddamn giggle. I turned sharply, and there she was. Leaning on one hip, a spray can still in hand, shaking it like a trophy. Jane. Standing in front of the J-Squad, her loyal fan club of cocky assholes, who were casually leaning on their bikes like this was some runway moment. Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she grinned at me. "Oops, Mr. Newbie," she sang, voice soaked in fake innocence. "I thought your bike was a canvas. My bad, I didn't mean to. You know, just like you didn't mean to throw that damn paint on me." I clenched my jaw, fists curling at my sides. The nerve, the insanity. Behind her, the boys laughed, every single one of them enjoying the damn show. Jasper reached out and ruffled her hair like she was some untouchable princess. "Let's go, princess," he said. "You're late for piano class." She nodded, cool as ice, popped a bubble with her gum, and walked over to my bike, my ruined bike, without a shred of remorse. She stuck the gum right on my gas tank, patted it once, and tilted her head. "Oh, I made it more beautiful," she smirked. Then she turned, got on her own bike, and in seconds, they all roared out of the lot like nothing ever happened. I stood there, staring at my once flawless machine, breathing hard. I wanted to grab her by the hair and scrub her damn face on my bike. But I didn't. I just let out a deep breath, closing my eyes, jaw aching from the tension. "Jane," I muttered through gritted teeth, "if you keep pissing me off, I swear one day, you'll beg me to go easy on you." And that day, it's coming. Jane's Pa. After the university, I parked my bike and walked into the studio. I found myself sitting at the piano, my fingers resting lightly on the keys as I waited for my teacher. After a few minutes, the door swung open. I looked up, expecting to see my usual instructor. But instead, she entered with someone else, a man, standing tall beside her. He looked good, really good. His presence immediately filled the room, and I stood up out of reflex. "Jane," Mrs. Lim said, her voice light with excitement. "I wanted to introduce you to Do-yeon. I'm going on vacation for a month, so he'll be teaching you until I return." Do-yeon smiled warmly, his dark eyes meeting mine, and I could tell he was trying to make a good first impression. I offered my hand. "I'm Jane. Nice to meet you." His handshake was firm but gentle. "Nice to meet you too, Jane. I hope we'll get along." I nodded, feeling the slight awkwardness of meeting a new teacher settle in beside me, but there was something about him that made me feel at ease. We both took our seats in front of the piano. Do-yeon started by guiding me through some basic notes, his fingers hovering over mine to correct my posture. At first, I was tense, but his gentle encouragement and steady instructions quickly put me at ease. The way he moved, the way he spoke, it was all so natural and calm. Before I knew it, the nervousness I had felt earlier melted away, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the lesson. "All right, try this scale," he said, demonstrating a series of notes. His tone was friendly but precise, showing he knew exactly what he was doing. I followed his lead, my fingers hesitating at first but gradually gaining confidence. "Don't worry, everyone fumbles a bit in the beginning," he teased with a light chuckle. "Really, even you?" I asked, raising an eyebrow as I played the notes. "Especially me," he admitted with a grin. "My first teacher nearly gave up on me. But look where I am now, teaching someone who actually gets it on the first try." His lightheartedness was contagious, and I found myself laughing along. As the lesson continued, I started to feel more comfortable, his occasional jokes and warm demeanor making it easy to relax. He made a few funny faces whenever I missed a note, exaggerating a frown or widening his eyes, which broke the ice even further. I wasn't used to this. Usually, my lessons were strict and structured, but with Do-yeon, it felt different. The late evening, casting a warm glow over the dining room. I sat at the long table, watching as my 4 brothers took their seats beside me, one by one. Namjoon Oppa sat at the head, his usual calm but intense presence filling the room. Jungkook and Suga sat next to him, quietly talking, while Seokjin Oppa, as always, smiled softly at me, his gentle eyes reassuring. Namjoon Oppa cleared his throat, drawing our attention. "I've started the strikes against Soo-jin's father's business," he announced, his deep voice steady. "It's only a matter of time before they crumble." I smiled, knowing exactly what that meant. It had been a long time coming. Soo-jin and his father had destroyed so much, not just for me but for everyone who had been close to me. My brothers hadn't acted before, not because they didn't want to, but because we didn't have the power. But now, with our resources and influence, it was only a matter of time before the people who had wronged me paid for it. "They'll all pay," Namjoon added, "everyone who had a hand in hurting our little bird." Suga Oppa, who had been quietly eating, leaned forward. "We'll make sure they regret every move they made. Not just Soo-jin, but all of them. Soo-yeon didn't deserve what happened to her." I felt my chest tighten at the mention of Soo-yeon. "I talked to the legal team," Seokjin Oppa chimed in, his voice calm but firm. "We're going to hit them where it hurts the most. Their reputation, their money, their power, everything." I took a deep breath and said, "I've made progress with Soo-jin's friends. I've been working on getting them to confess everything. Once they do, we'll have all the proof we need. Justice won't just be for me, but for Soo-yeon as well." Namjoon Oppa's eyes narrowed. "You've done enough, Jane, we can handle the rest." I shook my head. "No, Oppa, I won't stop until every single one of them begs for mercy. I don't just want them to fall, I want them to suffer. I want their guilt to drown them. I want their truth to rot them from the inside. They destroyed Soo-yeon, and they thought they could walk away. No, I'll ruin them, slowly, publicly, brutally." Slowly, Namjoon Oppa looked at me. "Just promise us one thing," he said, his voice serious. "When the time comes, let us finish it. You've done enough, leave the rest to us." I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but first, I'll make sure they confess." The room fell into a comfortable silence after that, the weight of our plan settling in. I knew I wasn't alone in this fight, but I also knew that this was something I had to see through to the end. Soo-jin and his friends had taken everything from me once, but now, it was my turn. And I wouldn't stop until they paid for every single thing they had done. At night, the music was loud, the air buzzing with excitement as cars zoomed past and the crowd roared in approval. People were dancing, cheering, completely engrossed in the races happening around us, but my mind was elsewhere. I stood at the edge of the race spot, arms crossed, but I couldn't focus on the thrill of the race like everyone else. My thoughts kept circling back to him, V. Something about him seemed familiar, like a face from a forgotten dream, lingering on the edge of my memory. But where had I seen him before? I tried to piece it together, tried to remember, but nothing came. It was frustrating. Yo, J-Hope bumped my shoulder, pulling me back to the present. You spaced out. What's going on in that evil genius head of yours? I smirked slightly, probably just engine fumes, or deja vu. He chuckled, accepting my answer, and turned his attention back to the race. I followed his gaze, but then something else caught my eye, a bike, speeding toward the crowd, skidding to a stop. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized the rider. V, what the hell is he doing here and showed with a new red bike? Seriously. He hadn't noticed me yet, but I watched him as he removed his helmet, shaking out his hair like he didn't have a care in the world. He stepped down from his bike and started talking with 𝘏𝘢𝘈, one of our classmates. It didn't take much to figure out that 𝘏𝘢𝘈 must have told him about this spot. Just as I was piecing it together, I saw him glance in our direction, and that's when I felt it, he was coming straight toward us. J Squad, who was nearby, also noticed. They exchanged glances, eyebrows raised in silent question, wondering why he was here. Jasper wasn't around, probably off doing his own thing, but the rest of the guys stood on alert. I crossed my arms tighter, my friends rising as I watched V make his way over. J-Hope stepped up first. You lost or something? He asked, voice light but laced with warning. V ignored him, his eyes were still on me. You race? He asked casually, head tilting. Or just watch? I arched a brow. Depends, you here to talk or lose? That caught him, he smiled wider, that sounded like a challenge. Only if you think you can handle being humiliated in front of this crowd. His eyes sparkled, then I guess I'll see you at the line, Tinkerbell. He turned and walked off before I could say more, just like that. Leaving behind his echo and the weight of his challenge. Jungkook muttered, you're seriously gonna race him? I glanced at the track, then at V's retreating back, then at my bike. Hell yes, I was. I don't care who he is, I said, sliding my keys from my pocket. He just walked into the wrong fire. Be careful tonight, Jane. It's night, and they've chosen the side roads. You know there's an end to the surface, it gets dangerous out there. Jungkook said. I smiled at him, trying to lighten the mood. It's not my first time, brother. Relax. Jungkook chuckled, but I could still see the concern in his eyes. He nodded, knowing there was no point in arguing. J-Hope and Jasper were the ones racing tonight along with a few opponents, but as I glanced around, something felt off. Where was Jasper? I frowned, scanning the crowd, but there was no sign of him. With a sigh, J-Hope and I made our way to where our bikes were parked, ready for the race. I swung my leg over my bike, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had settled in my chest. Just as I was about to put on my helmet, I saw Jasper walking toward us. I raised an eyebrow, curious about his absence. Where were you? I asked, a hint of worry in my voice. He sighed and shrugged, got stuck somewhere. I nodded, trusting him but still feeling a bit off about the situation. My eyes scanned the racers beside me, and that's when I saw him, V, next to J-Hope. He wasn't looking at J-Hope. His eyes were locked on me. A shiver ran down my spine. This guy, there was something so suspicious about him. Everything in me screamed not to trust him, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why. He smiled that same easy, charming smile, but I wasn't buying it. I looked away, refusing to give him any more of my attention. The announcer's voice came over the speakers, signaling the start of the race. My heart pounded in anticipation as the countdown began. Asterisk 3, 2, 1, asterisk. The sound of engines roared through the air as all the bikes shot forward. Taehyung's paw. As soon as the race began, I shot forward, keeping my eyes trained on J-Hope's bike. He was slightly ahead of me, but only because I let him. My earbuds were connected to Kanghoon, and I heard his voice in my ear, asking, Taehyung, is everything going good? I glanced at J-Hope, narrowing my focus. Yeah, everything's good. I'm keeping an eye on him, but I don't think he's noticed anything wrong with his bike. Kanghoon's voice was calm but calculated. Don't worry, he'll realize it soon enough. Stick with him, and when he loses control of his brakes, you've got to save him. Got it. I smirked, feeling confident. This was all part of my plan, to make J-Squad trust me by being the hero. Once I saved J-Hope, I'd be in. Closer to Jane, closer to their inner circle. But just then, something caught my eye, Jane. She was ahead of me, but something was off. Her bike was jerking, and it looked like she was struggling to control it. I glanced at J-Hope, his bike was running smoothly without a problem. That's when a sinking realization hit me. Kanghoon, I growled into the mic. Which bike did you tamper with? He sounded confused. The black one. Why? I looked between J-Hope's bike, which was black but slightly gray too, and Jane's, which was completely black. My stomach dropped. You messed up. It's Jane's bike, not J-Hope's. Silence hung in the air for a split second before Kong-hoon swore. Shit, what are you going to do? I didn't answer him. My mind was racing, my heart pounding in my chest. I watched as Jane's bike swerved out of control, veering off the track and towards the cliff's edge. Fear gripped me. She was heading straight toward the corner where the surface dropped off, where one wrong move could send her over the edge. If she fell, she'd die. Fuck, I cursed under my breath, pushing my bike to its limit as I sped up to reach her. Jasper and J-Hope must have sensed something was wrong because they were no longer focused on the race. They were behind me, trailing Jane as she fought to regain control. But it wasn't enough. Her bike was too far gone. My heart pounded, and adrenaline surged through my veins as I closed the gap between us. Jane's eyes met mine, wide with terror. It shattered something inside me to see her like that. The fear in her eyes. I couldn't let her die. Not like this. Not because of me. I swerved closer, my bike barely inches from hers. Hold on, I shouted, but the roar of the wind and engine swallowed my words. I had to act fast. Without thinking, I gunned my engine and veered sharply to the right, positioning my bike just next to hers. With one final push, I rammed her bike with mine, knocking it off balance. At the same moment, I reached out and grabbed her waist, pulling her off the bike just as both of our vehicles collided and skidded toward the ground. We hit the ground hard, tumbling across the rough surface. My arms were wrapped around her as we rolled, the momentum slamming us into the dirt. I could feel the sting of cuts and bruises forming on my body, but all I cared about was keeping her safe. Finally, we came to a stop. The bikes had tumbled down the hill, but we were still on solid ground. My heart pounded in my chest, but I barely registered the pain. I looked down at Jane, who was still in my arms, breathing heavily. She was alive. We were alive. I yanked off my helmet, tossing it aside as I quickly removed Jane's too. The second the cool air hit her face, she broke down, tears spilling from her eyes as she clung to me, her arms wrapping tightly around my waist. For a moment, I just froze, completely caught off guard by her reaction. My heart skipped a beat as I sit there, stunned, feeling the warmth of her body trembling against mine. She was crying, sobbing, actually, and it shook something deep inside me. Jane, the girl who always carried herself like nothing could touch her, was crying like a child in my arms. I didn't know what to do. Why did seeing her like this hurt so much? She had done terrible things to my brother, caused him so much pain, yet here I was, feeling a tightness in my chest that I couldn't explain. I barely noticed J-Hope and Jasper pulling up beside us, the sound of their bike screeching to a halt. J-Hope quickly kneeled next to us, his face filled with concern as he gently pulled Jane out of my arms and into his. She buried her face into his chest, her sobs muffled by his jacket. I was still frozen in place, my hands now empty, the warmth of her touch lingering on my skin. Jasper came up to me, his expression filled with worry as he glanced between me and Jane. "Are you okay, man?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded, but I could feel the sharp pain in my back from the fall. My muscles screamed in protest, but it wasn't the physical pain that was bothering me, it was the ache in my chest. The confusion. Why did I feel this way? Why did seeing her like this tear at me so much? As J-Hope held her close, comforting her as she cried, I could only stand there, watching them, feeling a strange sense of guilt and regret. She looked so vulnerable, so fragile, nothing like the fierce girl who had walked through life with her head held high. And for some reason, it broke me.